Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the You Will Be Okay podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Debi Silber, founder of the PBT Institute, Post-Betrayal Transformation, and the creator of National Forgiveness Day. She's a two-time #1 international best-selling author, an award-winning speaker, and the host of the From Betrayal to Breakthrough podcast. Her groundbreaking PhD study on how we experience betrayal led to 3 major discoveries that have completely changed how we understand and how quickly we can heal from betrayal trauma. Through her work, she's helped thousands of people move past betrayal and break through the emotional blocks holding them back on their health, work, relationships, and self-worth. Welcome, Debi. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, yes, we have lots to cover for sure. So what led you to focus on betrayal as your area of research and healing work? Was there a personal experience that sparked this path?
Yeah, I don't think anybody says, I think I want to study betrayal, like never. No,
Right.
you study because you have to. So I've been in business 33 years, health, mindset, personal development. And then I had a really painful betrayal from my family, thought I did what I needed to do to heal from that. And then it happened a few years later. This time it was my husband. That was the deal breaker. Got him out of the house, looked at the two experiences thinking, what's similar to these two besides me, And I realized I never took my needs seriously. Boundaries were always getting crossed. I never did anything for myself. And I was like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So here it was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business. And I decided to go back for a PhD. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, how I was going to manage the time, but I usually kind of learn my way through things, but there wasn't a book, a course, and anything. So I decided to study it at the PhD level. And honestly, it was just to get me through this so I could be there for my kids and my clients. And while I was there, I did a study. And I studied betrayal. And that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my family, my work, my life.
So can you please share what those were and what we can understand about healing from betrayal from what you've learned?
Yeah, sure. So, if you've been through betrayal and then you've been through other traumas, it feels different, right? Like I've been through death of a loved one. I've been through disease. And I was like, betrayal feels different to me. I didn't want to assume it was the same for everybody in my study. So I asked them, if you've been through other traumas, does it feel different to you? Unanimously, they said it's so different. And here's why. Because it feels so intentional. We take it so personally. The entire self gets shattered. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. Like when you lose someone you love, you grieve, you're sad, you mourn the loss, life will never be the same. But you don't question the relationship. You don't question your ability to trust. You don't question your sanity. With betrayal, you do. So that betrayal is a different type of trauma. That was the first discovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about the other ones?
Yeah. So the second one was, there's actually a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's now known as Post-Betrayal Syndrome. And we've had easily over 100,000 people take our Post-Betrayal Syndrome quiz to see to what extent they're struggling. And this is what's so interesting. We've all heard time heals all wounds, right? Mm-hmm. I have the proof. When it comes to betrayal, that's not true.
Oh, yeah. I say this all the time. It doesn't
right.
It just makes memories a little bit more fuzzy.
Exactly. There's a question on the quiz that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago. I will never trust again. That's so common. But what's so crazy is every few months I pull the stats from the quiz. I'm happy to share them if that would help.
Just sure. So yeah. Okay.
Because it would have been a little bit of an awkward moment if you said no.
No, please.
Okay. So now imagine men and women, over 100,000 people, just about every country. As much as you're going to hear these symptoms, hear the numbers. Okay, ready? 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. Just think about what that would do. 80% are hypervigilant, so your nervous system is completely dysregulated. Yeah. 94% deal with painful triggers, and they can take you right down. These are the most common physical symptoms. 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. Your adrenals have tanked. 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, you can't hold food down. Later on, you're emotionally eating. You're using food for comfort. 45% have a digestive issue. That could be anything. Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, you name it. Some of the mental symptoms, 78% are overwhelmed. 68% are unable to focus. 62% can't concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate. You have a gut issue. You're exhausted. You still have to take care of your kids. You still have to go to work. That's right. That's not even emotionally. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. And you're bouncing back and forth between those two all day. 79% is stressed, just a few more. This one killed me. 84% have an inability to trust. Like, think about what an inability to trust would do in your work, in your health, in your relationships. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. The big wall goes up.
Yeah.
82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I checked yes to all of these after, I mean, for me, my biggest betrayal, I think it was when I was 21, and I fell so in love with this guy. I didn't realize at the time he was a narcissist. It was a very toxic, codependent relationship. I gave everything. I completely erased myself for the sake of that relationship. And he ended up cheating on me and leaving. I would have taken him back. I mean, I was so invested, and he left me for her. And then when I was like, how could you do this to me? He just acted like I was nothing. Like I never meant anything. Like, well, it is what it is. You knew it wasn't working. Just callous, cold like that. And because I was so young and I had so few tools, and there was no Instagram, TikTok, there were no people talking about this, I just internalized the belief that, oh, it happened because I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy. I couldn't, it just, which was a wound that already existed before him. He didn't put it there. He just really hammered it in.
Yeah.
And I didn't challenge that, I think, for a decade. It wasn't until I was like 29 when I realized, I was like, wait, this had nothing to do with me at all. And would you say, is that why people get so stuck in betrayal? Is it because we internalize it and we can't see the bigger picture? He was a narcissist, which I feel like most of the time when you're betrayed, it is by a narcissist. Is that what you see?
Well, you know what? You just set me up for the third discovery so perfectly. But just to wrap up the second one,
Sure.
you didn't hear me say 20%, 30%. These numbers are super high. They're also not representative of a recent betrayal. So this could be that your parent who did something awful when you were a kid. It could be that, that person who broke your heart when you were 21, right? Now think about this. That person may not know, care, remember. They may not even be alive. And here we are decades later, walking around with these symptoms because it's been left unhealed. The good news is you can heal from all of it. That was the third discovery. And to answer your question, everything you just talked about is what most people struggle with in the third discovery, which is there are 5 stages we go through if we fully heal. Most people get stuck in stage 3.
What are the stages?
Okay, I was going to say, because you'll hear exactly where you were as I move through all of these. Okay, so stage 1 is before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, what I saw with everybody, me too, was a heavy lean on the physical and mental thinking and doing. We're so good at that. And kind of neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual feeling and being. If a table only has 2 legs, it's going to be easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day, discovery day. You remember your D-Day. Everybody does, right?
Oh, yeah, vividly.
And
I don't remember what I ate yesterday, but I remember that day, yes.
Exactly, right? And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. Right here, you got the news that forever changes your life. It's a psychological earthquake. Life is now compartmentalized into 2 camps. Before it happened, after it happened. And what happens right here is you ignite the stress response. You're now headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a total state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around what you just learned, and your worldview is shattered. This was your mental model, the rules that govern you. Trust this person. This is how life works. These are the rules, right? And in one earth-shattering moment or series of moments, every rule you've been counting on is no longer. The bottom has bottomed out, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. It's terrifying, right?
Terrifying, yeah.
Right, you remember it. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything or anyone. in order to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Here's where most people they're right here. Survival instincts emerge. This is the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this? Where do I go? But here's the trap though. We get stuck here, and here's why. Because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma we just came from, we think it's good, right? And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5, we're like, okay, I better figure out a way to make this work. We're not supposed to do that, but we don't know. And 4 things start to happen. The first thing is we start getting all those small self benefits. We get our story. We love our story. We get to be right. We get someone to blame. We get validated. We get confirmed. We get all of that. We get sympathy from everyone we tell our story to. And because we feel so bad, we think that's good. So we start planting some deeper roots here. Okay. And now because we're here longer than we should be, now the mind starts doing things like, maybe you're not that great. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. And now because these are the thoughts we're thinking, this is the energy we start putting out. Mm-hmm. Like energy attracts like energy. So now we start attracting more of the same. Here's where we have confirmation and we have new relationships that confirm this is where we belong. Like here's where we go to therapy, well-meaning therapists, but if they're not highly skilled in betrayal, you're going to go feel heard, validated, and understood. You're not a step closer to stage 4.
Right.
You're actually solidifying your spot in stage 3. Here's where we join some kind of lame support group, and you will actually sabotage your growth because you found your people, right?
Interesting. Why is that?
Because we want to belong. We want to feel like, oh, these people get me. And they do. But the problem is you start healing. You've now outgrown your group.
Ah, interesting.
That makes sense? Yeah. Here's where we will also sabotage our healing because we're afraid to outgrow our betrayer who has no intention of changing. Remember you said you did that?
No, yeah. Oh my God, I was stuck on him for years. And then we created a business together. It was a whole thing.
Exactly. So common. This is what we do in stage 3. And because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go, right here we start numbing, avoiding, distracting. So we start using food and drugs and alcohol and work and TV and whatever just to manage this space and manage the symptoms, manage this like stuckness, right? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm reliving the whole experience now listening to you. I mean, obviously from a very, very far removed place. Yeah. I think that what's so hard about it is, at least for me at that time, I wanted his validation so badly. And so I would go out seeking validation from anybody that was similar to him.
Yes.
And it was almost like I wanted him to know. Like I just wanted him to know. I wanted him to feel bad. I wanted him to realize he made a mistake. I just wanted him to hurt. And that obviously got me nowhere. I had no control over what was going on with him, what was going on in his life. And incidentally enough, I became a relationship expert because I tried to get him back. I reached out to him years. I couldn't get out of that cycle like you described. I was numb. I was dissociated. And because I was just operating from that space, men were very drawn to that. I don't know. There's something about that woman who's just kind of like super, super, super independent, super non-needy. I mean, at first that's very alluring. It's not really conducive to having a healthy relationship. But I was like, I want him to know about this. So I got back in touch. I was telling him all about all these guys are after me. And then he was like, you should write about this and teach other women how to do it. So that's how at 23, I started doing this. Yeah. But it felt like nothing made a dent because I needed it from him. So how do you I want you to keep going through all the stages, but I guess I wanted to interject with asking, what do you do when you come to associate this person with your feelings of worth and you feel like, I just can't get there on my own. Like I need him to feel bad. I need him to realize what he did. Yeah.
You get out of stage 3 because these are stage 3 thoughts and you can only do stage 3 things when you're in stage 3 and you have access to stage 3 decisions. Right. So people ask me all the time, do I stay? Do I go? Do I do this? Do I do that? Everything you are thinking in stage 3, you will not be thinking in stage 4. So the best thing to do, you get to stage 4 because then you have stage 4 thoughts. You're making stage 4 decisions. Same thing, stage 5, right?
What was in stage 4? Was stage 4 the numbing, or that was still stage
No,
3?
no, no. So let me get you out of stage 3.
Okay, we gotta
So
get out of stage 3. Okay.
right. Okay. So if you're willingness is a huge thing right here. If you're willing to grieve, mourn the loss, let go of your story, bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Just in that decision, you're turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but at least you stopped the massive damage that was going on in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved. If you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, whatever, like your stuff's not there, it's not quite cozy yet, but you're like, okay, sort of this hopeful excitement.
I like that metaphor. Yeah.
Well, but think about this. If you were to move, you don't bring everything with you. You
Right.
don't bring the things that don't represent the version of you you're now ready to become. And what I found was it was so interesting because there's this one spot as people move from stage 3 to stage 4. If your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you. That lame support group, you're done. That therapist who just isn't skilled in betrayal and you're just feeling heard and heard and heard, you're done. The betrayer who isn't willing to change or grow, you're done. And people say to me all the time, what the heck? I've had these people in my life for so long. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come. So stage 4 isn't necessarily a lonely place, but it's very personal, very action oriented. What do I need? Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. When we settle into this new home, right? We make it kind of mentally cozy. We move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. We couldn't do that earlier. We didn't have the bandwidth. Now we do. The mind is healing. We're making all kinds of new rules, new boundaries, based on the road we just traveled. And we have a whole new worldview based on everything we see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of that table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. But at this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Wow, it's beautiful. How long does it take to get through all these stages?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And it has so much more to do with willingness than time.
Yeah, you have to be ready. You have to be ready to let it go.
Because there are people, and it's so interesting too, because in the study, there were 3 groups who didn't heal, and I'll share who they were. But I assumed, you're not supposed to assume anything as a researcher, I was new at this, but I was like, oh, you know what? The ones who were the hardest hit, they would take the longest because they have the most to overcome. That had nothing to do with it at all. It was the ones who put their head down and they're like, I am not picking it up till I'm out the other side. Blew the doors off of the other ones. Do you want to hear the 3 groups that didn't heal?
Yes, please. This is so fascinating. I love this. Yes. Share all the data.
So the first group, this was a group, they had their story. They were sticking with it. They were betrayed. That was it. That was their story. And they were not willing to let it go for a story yet to be written that was a billion times better. They had this story, and it was almost like, what happens with betrayal is you feel like you have lost control over everything. So whether it's holding on to your story, withholding forgiveness, whatever it is, you feel like, okay, I have control over this. So it makes sense why we hang on.
Is that why it's control?
Well, even so, that's why one of the things within the PBT Institute, we encourage just health, for example, because something even like what you eat, how you move, may be the only things you feel you have control over when your world's been totally upended. So it's a good place to start. But yeah, so the ones who would not let go of their story, they didn't heal. The second group, this was the group where they were numbing, avoiding, distracting.
Yeah.
They ran to the doctor, put them on a mood stabilizer, anti-anxiety med. They were drinking, emotionally eating. It may have made the day a bit easier to get through. Not without a price, they didn't heal. The third group, this was the group where the betrayer had very little consequences. So whether it was out of financial fear, religious reasons was a big one, not wanting to break up a family, they just did all they could to look the other way, turn the other cheek. I saw 2 things with this group. Number 1, a further deterioration of the relationship. And 2, this group was the most physically sick.
Really?
Yeah, your broken heart can't handle that.
Wow.
But people think, oh, I'll just patch it up. You can't patch it up.
Yeah.
There needs to be an entire crash and burn, so that you birth something entirely new.
Wow. Okay. So for these groups, like, is it hopeless, or how can okay, let's say you have someone and they're just sticking to the story. And I do see this with a lot of the clients that I work with. I mean,
I'm sure.
one in particular was I guess ghosted by a guy she was kind of in like a situationship with,
Yeah.
and can't let that go, that feeling of betrayal. Like, he promised her, she had made it clear to him, look, please don't do this to me, okay? Like, please, if you have a problem, whatever, just send me a text, let me know, because he had kind of ghosted and then he came back. So she made it clear, and then he did it anyway. And we've gone through all the tools, we've done all the work, but she still can't let it go. Like, how could he? Is there anything that you can do to encourage someone to let it go?
It's not can. It's not willing to. I'm going to give you an example, and you may want to share this with her. Ready? Here's the difference between resilience and transformation, using a story of like an old house. Imagine a house needs a new roof. You get a roof. That's resilience. You're restoring it, right? Needs a new paint job. You paint. That's resilience. Here's trauma and transformation. A tornado comes by and levels the house.
Oof.
Like, a new roof's not going to fix it. New paint job's not going to fix it. Now, here's the thing, and here's where this person is. You have every right, and she has every right, to stand there at the lot where her house once stood and say, this is the most tragic, horrible, awful thing that's ever happened. And she would be absolutely right. And she can call over everybody she knows and say, look at this. Isn't this the most horrific thing you've ever seen? And everybody will say, yes, that's horrible. And she can do that until her last breath. Right. However, if she chooses to rebuild the house, she doesn't have to, but if she chooses to, why in the world would she build the same house? There's nothing there, right? Why not give it everything the old house didn't have?
Yeah.
That's the opportunity. And that's such a waste of trauma when people don't look at it and say, what in the world can I do with this? See, that's the beauty of betrayal. And I know people are like really angry when I just said that. But here's the thing. You get to intentionally and deliberately recreate all of it. You bring all the parts you love and you leave behind everything that no longer serves. And you create a version of you that never would have been able to be created had that not happened. That's trauma well served.
Ooh, I like that. That's really good. What about people who, you kind of touched on this earlier, who've experienced multiple betrayals? And I feel like betrayal does come in all forms. And I would love to hear what you have to say on this with the types of people you work with. I mean, we have trauma. What I see a lot with my clients is just the repeated ghosting, especially in this day and age. It's just so common, or rejections, or being cheated on. So you have this buildup of the same pattern happening over and over. And you get to the point where you're like, well, why should I think that things will ever be any different for me when this is what keeps happening? How do you get out of that?
You get out of it because one of the most classic signs of an unhealed betrayal is a repeat betrayal. The faces change, but it's the same thing. You keep going from boss to boss to boss, friend to friend to friend, partner to partner to partner. You say, what the heck, is it me? Yes, it is. Not in that it's your fault, in that it's your opportunity. There's a gigantic lesson waiting to be learned. Yeah. You are lovable, worthy, and deserving. You need better boundaries in place, whatever it is. Until and unless you get that, you're going to have opportunities in the form of people to teach you. Like, for example, look at my own story. I was betrayed by my family. I thought I healed, and then it happened again with my husband. Now, for me to enroll in a PhD program, I hadn't been in school in 30 years. Like, I went back at 50, right?
Wow.
I hadn't done anything for myself, like, ever. For me to do something that gigantic, it was such a huge shift, and it changed my entire life. You see what I mean? But until and unless you're willing to do something so different than what you've been doing, you can only expect more of the same.
Right. Right. What sorts of betrayals do you see most commonly? Is it cheating? What is it that you often?
I mean, within the PBT Institute, it's definitely relational is our number one, but family's a close second. And very often it's that unhealed family stuff that leads to relational betrayals, because it's like, oh, I know how this works. I get it. This is a familiar road. So it's so common. But then again, I mean, there are friendship betrayals and workplace betrayals, and self betrayals are huge.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've experienced them all for sure. That's why I'm loving this episode. That's why when you reached out to me and so to say, so you're a betrayal expert, I'm like, yes, we have to do this. Do you think it's necessary to forgive in order to heal from a betrayal?
You know, I speaking, we're the founders of National Forgiveness Day, so
Oh yes, which is
yeah.
amazing. That's
So I'm big on forgiveness, but having said that, forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. Nothing. Forgiveness releases the power the pain has over you. You're doing it for your sake. You're doing it because withholding forgiveness is creating accelerated aging, is suppressing your immune system, is keeping you stuck, right? So forgiveness, having said that, so that doesn't mean you're setting yourself up to be duped. You're weak. You're a pushover. It's none of that. It has nothing to do with the other person. But here's the thing too. When you're forgiving too early and for the wrong reasons, it backfires every single time.
how's that?
And people think, oh, this is so painful, let me just forgive already. No. Forgiveness has a similar timeline to trust, and it takes time. And I don't believe trust can be repaired. It needs to be rebuilt. And I can talk about that too. But when it's too soon, I remember even reading a study that said, when I was doing my study, and it said, if you feel safe and valued and you forgive, you feel better. If you do not feel safe and valued and you forgive, you feel worse. Isn't that true?
Wow. Yes, that's so spot on.
You know, and also forgiveness it's not this one big like ta-da moment. No, it's a practice. It's stages. It's a daily kind of thing. So there's so much to it with forgiveness, but it cannot be rushed. It's got to be on your own time, and it has nothing to do with the other person.
Right. Right. Is there anything that's just absolutely unforgivable, or how do we know when someone's worth forgiving?
Yeah, you know, this is where spirituality has a gigantic place in healing, and whether that means the spiritual side of your religion, spirituality in general, because there you'll find that everything can be forgiven. And it's, again, that doesn't mean you're okay with it. That doesn't mean you're going back for more. That doesn't mean you're a sucker or a pushover. It means you value yourself enough to stop poisoning yourself with that pain.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So you mentioned the stages of healing, and you said that like step one, or essentially like the place someone needs to be mentally is they have to be ready. They have to be ready to let it go, right? Then what are just some actionable steps, like to get really granular here, of what people can do to heal and recover from betrayal?
Yeah. I think the first thing, they have to be ready, and even more than that, they have to be willing. Because when we get this, when we're validated for our pain, like it can feel like a drug, and we get so much from it. And then if we're numbing and avoiding and distracting, like we have to know we're doing that. So one thing, actually there are these 4 questions that will show you if you're numbing, avoiding, distracting. I invite everybody to write these down. That's my way of saying write these down.
Okay.
So because you can't change what you're not aware of, right? And one of the biggest stops, the biggest traps in not moving forward is that we're just numbing and we don't even know. So here are these 4 questions. Ready? The first, am I numbing, avoiding, distracting? If so, how? Like, call yourself on it. Are you walking into the kitchen, you're not the least bit hungry, and you're in the cabinets? Are you walking into a room and turning on the TV or whatever just to drown out the sound of your own thoughts? What's going on? Like, call yourself on it. The second question, this is a hard one. What am I pretending not to see?
Ooh.
Right? Like, be honest. Am I pretending not to see there's trouble in my relationship? I mean, you could take it further. Am I pretending not to see that health issue that needs my attention? Am I pretending not to see I hate my job? Like, call yourself on it. The third question, what's life going to look like in 5 to 10 years if I keep this going? Play this out. Like the person that you were coaching that you said, the one who's like the ghosting one, ask her, in 5 to 10 years, if you just are ruminating and marinating in this same thing, go 10 years out with that. Where are you going to be?
Yeah.
You can only have more illnesses. You're only more stuck. You're only, people are just avoiding you because they can't take the conversation anymore, right? Like play it out,
Yeah.
And then the fourth question, what can life look like in 5 to 10 years if I change now? I'm not saying change is easy, but change begins when you tell yourself the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so good. Do you think that this is work that can be done on your own, or do you think someone needs a trained betrayal therapist or a coach or a mentor of some sort in order
Yeah.
to really get there?
It really, it has to do with willingness, readiness, speed, intention. Here's the thing too. You don't want to hit it just from a mental and emotional place. It's physical too. You
Yeah.
need, the issues are in the tissues. Like you really have to get it from every angle. Can you do it on your own? You can, but there's a roadmap. It's the 5 stages. And if you want the support from people who get it, who've been there, who've done it, it's just an easier, quicker road to follow.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's so much harder. Like, why make things harder? It's so much easier when you have a mentor, someone guiding you, someone giving you the tools, especially for something as delicate as betrayal. It can be so isolating. You just feel so alone in it. And I think
I
that's
mean,
the hardest part.
yeah, I wish I had, I knew of anyone or, anything that could have helped me move through
Oh,
the
yeah.
stages. But when you see like, I certify a lot of our coaches and the best of the best work within the PBT Institute. And when you see people who have rebuilt their lives, whether they've rebuilt an entirely new and different relationship with the person who hurt them or someone completely new, they've rebuilt their health, new passion projects, new everything, because that's what stage 5 looks like. At least you see it and you're like, okay, if they did it, I can do it too. Like it's very inspiring.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question, which is what is something surprising or even beautiful that you've seen come from the betrayal healing journey?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my own personal story, like the PBT Institute was a stage 5 thing. As a totally new transformed person and my husband too, we married each other again. New rings, new vows, new
You
dress.
did. You married the same husband who betrayed you.
Again as two.
Wow.
Now, if there wasn't, and I'm a bright woman, if there wasn't a complete and total crash and burn of both of us and a complete and total rebuild of both of us, I would never do something like that. I'm a highly sensitive empath with integrity as my highest value.
Yeah.
So someone, like me to be willing to, it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Wow.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've been in the ICU for 11 days. That was nothing compared to doing something like this.
Wow.
Yeah, because you're taking on all of it. You're taking on your ego. You're seeing, you're allowing to see a different side of people. And I was so tripped up all the time because I was like, can he really change? I'm like, but wait a second, I'm totally different.
Right.
So I'm seeing that other people can be different too. We actually have a program for the betrayers too.
You have a program for betrayers.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. And it's not going to be any kind of betrayer that wants to take a program like that. But if I tell you they are so dedicated, these are people who blew up their lives and they're like, they want to become someone they're proud of. And sometimes they do better than the betrayed because they're like, okay, any old remnant of me, I want it gone. And they are taking notes and I give them the playbook, what to say, what to do, what to never say, what to never do. And they're like, oh, that's good. That's good.
So that's incredible. And that touches on something really, really important because I think sometimes women don't know, like, can I forgive him? Can I trust him again? Like, how do I know? And I always say, is he a growth oriented person? Is he taking the steps to not do this again? I imagine you have no narcissists in the betrayer program because they don't think they
No.
did anything wrong. Like they double down and they're always right. So at least we're weeding out all the narcissists and it's the ones who for whatever reason made a mistake. They had their own trauma, their own limiting beliefs, their own self-esteem issues, whatever it was that led them to the place of being the betrayer. But if they are able to say, I want to never do this again. I want to be a new person. I want to heal. I'm coming in. I'm taking notes. I feel like that is a really good sign that you have a chance of being able to rebuild with that person.
And they actually do. And we also teach if it's safe and in your best interest to heal and rebuild with someone or to move on. Like with my family, there was no changing. So I healed myself and moved along, right? So you have to know who you're working with. Someone who takes zero responsibility, who doesn't think they've done anything wrong, just blames you, whatever. You have very little to work with there. You really do. But when someone looks and says, "Oh my God, what was that?" It's an opportunity. Not that you have to do anything with it, but there's tremendous potential if you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone listening right now is in the middle of heartbreak or betrayal, what is one message that you'd want to leave them with?
Yeah, and I get it. I've been there. It sucks. If you have to say this a million times to yourself, it's worth it. Ready? Even though it happened to you, it's not about you.
Oh, that's
It's not.
good.
It's
Write
really
that
not.
down. Yeah. Everyone listening, write that down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
We
not
make it
about
so
you.
personal. We make it so personal when it's not.
It's really not. And I hear this, not only do I know this from my own personal experience, all my coaches, all of our members, I hear this from the betrayers. They're telling me that too. It had nothing to do with their partner. It was them. Does not excuse betrayal at all, ever. But it had nothing to do with their partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Okay, let's do a few quick rapid fire questions. What is one book you always recommend to someone healing from heartbreak?
On a healing from heartbreak, I could say Trust Again, which is my own book. But the book that...
You can recommend your own books. I'm sure.
Okay, all right, we'll stop there.
Okay, trust again. What is one daily ritual that helps you stay grounded?
Journal.
Journal. Yeah, I like that. What is the most misunderstood thing about betrayal?
That we take it personally.
Yeah, when it's not. It's not about you.
Not at all.
I hope more than anything people leave this episode with that, because nobody was saying that. I never got that message. I didn't know that when I was struggling, and I caused myself years and years of health issues, the autoimmune issues. I mean, I never even made that connection. I struggled so much in my early 20s. And just replaying the same toxic patterns over and over again,
Yeah.
sabotaging myself. And I guess the beauty in that is it led me here. It led me to this career, because no one was talking about these things. So I'm like, I guess I'm going to. Well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I started a blog, and that's where it all began. So what you're doing is so necessary and so beautiful. And please share with everyone where they can find you.
Oh, thank you. Everything is at the PBT, as in Post-Betrayal Transformation, thepbtinstitute.com.
Okay, amazing. And I will link it in the show notes down below. It was such a pleasure having you on. This was amazing, enlightening, incredible. And thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take care.